What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video, and we have concluded the 2022-23 NBA regular season. Now, this time last month, almost to the exact day, I'm 2 days off, I made a video titled Things I'd Like to See Happen in the NBA Offseason Volume 1. And in that video, I said I plan on making one of these videos a month until the actual NBA offseason starts. So, if you did not watch that video, check it out. And I have wrote down what teams I talked about in that video. I talked about the Spurs, Rockets, Blazers, Hornets, Magic, Bulls, Nets, and I briefly mentioned the Wizards and Pistons. So, long story short, in the video, I talked about things, moves, and just ideas towards those teams getting better or just a change in direction for those teams. So, the same thing will be happening in this video, where I have even more teams that I will talk about and directions I want to see them go in or moves they could pop. I'm not going to, I don't have, an exact hypothetical trade that they should go through, but, so, obviously, the last video was top lottery teams, where this video is play-in / playoff bubble level teams. Now, I will admit this. Two teams I won't be talking about that kind of fit the criteria of that are the Jazz and the Pacers. The main reason I'm not talking about them is they were expected to be lower-tiered teams at the bottom of both their conferences, and then they ended up having two most improved player candidates, leading them to being way better than where they were. With the Jazz, I don't really know of anything off the top of my head that's yes, I'd like to see them besides keeping Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen, I think the Jazz should continue doing what they're doing. So I don't really have a good suggestion for them. Same thing with the Pacers. Now, the other thing I could say with the Pacers is maybe you trade Miles Turner, but it's just we've heard that off-season after off-season, and he did sign an extension. I doubt they're looking towards moving him if they just signed him to an extension. So I want to get those teams out of the way. So, like I said, last video, bottom lottery teams. This video, play-in level teams. Now, I will admit this. I was going to do a play-in predictions, and that was the original idea for today's video. But then I was it's just going to be boring. I don't think I was going to say anything crazy about the play-in. It's just more of the story is I just want to watch the play-in, and anything that I'd have an idea of and just talk good about the play-in, I'll be talking about in my first-round playoff predictions video, which that will be happening this Sunday, or Saturday. So, I was this video, I was eventually going to make it. I plan on being it next week. But I'm let's just move it ahead a week earlier and get this done. So, we got a couple of teams to go through, so let me go through them quickly. At number 5, kind of the hot topic in the NBA right now, especially after yesterday's event on April 9th, because this video is being uploaded April 10th, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They had They had one of the craziest games ever. And several things happened. So, the Timberwolves have had an up and down season. And for the trade that they made, a terrible season. We all know the Rudy Gobert trade happened. 5 first-round picks, actual rotational players for Rudy Gobert. And, again, we already know what happened. He struck Kyle Anderson. We think we know what was heard. Long story short, it was not positive towards Rudy Gobert, but I don't think Rudy Gobert should have reacted the way that he did, because obviously you're a professional. You need to act like a professional. And it's definitely it's a funny situation because neither one of them got hurt. If somebody got hurt, it'd be Jesus Christ type of thing. But neither one of them got hurt. It's just it is. And this one, again, this is not funny. Jaden McDaniels, who is the team's best defender. I know Rudy Gobert is a multiple-time defensive player of the year, but it's just when you hear people talk about Jaden McDaniels, they act like he's the greatest defender of all time. Fractures his hand. Now, I'm not a doctor. I probably should have Googled how long it should take him to be out. But we know he's going to be out of the play-in game, and we don't know if and when he's going to come back, or if they're even going to win their play-in game against the Lakers. But more of the story, after these two stratoscopic, is that the word? Very bad, let me just dumb it down, events, they ended up winning the game. Mainly because of Anthony Edwards, who I've said several times is the guy for their team, but that's besides the point. The thing I want to see the Minnesota Timberwolves do this offseason, and call me crazy, at the end of the day, it's the Timberwolves. I'm a Grizzlies fan. They're kind of rivals. I want to see them run the team back. We know that they're never going to get the same value back for Rudy Gobert. And I think it would be I don't know. It's just like, you're kind of in a crappy situation with Rudy Gobert. Now, if you don't know the context of this, I'm going to sound stupid, but I made a video talking about the Portland Trailblazers. And it was mainly just saying the Trailblazers should trade Damian Lillard, which, people have been saying that for a minute, but I made a whole video talking about it 2-ish months ago. And I was like, there's not many teams that could trade for Damian Lillard because a lot of teams already have their point guard. And so, again, long story short, in that video, I suggested a Karl-Anthony Towns for Damian Lillard trade. And, again, I'm going to leave it at that, because if you want to hear me go into a real explanation of it, check that video out. I'll leave it in the description. But it's just like, with this team, when they were together on the court earlier in the year, before Karl-Anthony Towns got hurt, they sucked, and they were just disappointing. And maybe if they would have played it out, they would have changed things up. Who really knows? But obviously, Cat got hurt. He did come back. It was a long time before he came back, but you never want to rush anybody back from injury. But it's just like, you're never going to get the value back for Rudy Gobert. You probably want to keep Karl-Anthony Towns because he's your longer tenured player. And I thought he would be frustrated with the injury, with being on a bad team, and them trading his friend D'Angelo Russell. But we haven't really heard or seen any signs of frustration from Cat. So I'll give credit to him. So, moral of the story, Timberwolves, I'd like to see them run it back with this team. And who knows, they might actually make the playoffs because, again, I'll make this before the play-in happens. A lot of people are doubting them, especially going into the Lakers game without Jaden McDaniels and possibly without Rudy Gobert. But who knows? So, moral of the story, I want to see the Timberwolves run it back because, A, it doesn't really matter what they do because I'm a Grizzlies fan. And they had a bad year. Obviously, want to see them not be as good. But as a basketball fan and as somebody trying to make logical and give logical suggestions, I think this is probably the most logical one just because if you just kind of we screwed up badly and just try to get something very bad in return, it's just not going to work out well, in my opinion. So, Minnesota Timberwolves, I like to see them run this thing back next year, which is most likely the option that they're going to do anyways. At number 4, the Toronto Raptors, who again have another play-in game. They have to face the Bulls at. Let me say, I have no clue who's the home team in that game, so I'm going to Google that really quickly. But the Raptors, I was very down on them at the trade deadline because for a whole month plus long, it was rumored they're going to trade OG and Anunoby. They might trade for it, they're going to blow their whole team up. And then they sat on their ass, traded for Jakob Poeltl, which I should have known from that moment. I'm like, they're not going to make a move. And then they're just like, we got you. But it's just it really triggered me. Because, again, I'm a Grizzlies fan. There's a lot of rumors of Memphis really wanting to get OG and trying their best to get OG. And then it's just I don't want OG now because, A, he's an expiring contract. And B, if we hypothetically get him for the same trade package that we could have got him at the deadline, I just want to feel like we wasted time. So, I don't even unless he's a first round pick, which I know that's not going to be the case. That'd be stupid. So the Bulls will be away. They got to play Toronto at home. Should be a good game. Besides the point, I want to see Toronto retool, which is the most likely option. But when you look at their team, they're kind of like another team that I will mention, obviously, where they have their core guys that were involved in the championship run, mainly Fred and Pascal Siakam. Which, to be Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam. I need to stop shortening names, but I like doing that anyways. And OG Anunoby wasn't a part of that championship run because he was hurt. And then they brought everybody back besides Kawhi. And then they had a great year. Number 2 seed in the bubble. And then they lost. And then they lost Serge and Marc Gasol, which, to be fair, they're on their older side. They didn't need to bring them back. They still had Kyle Lowry, which, again, same thing at the trade deadline where they're teasing. We're going to get rid of Kyle Lowry, and then they just didn't. It's just kind of we want to see you make a move. We don't want to just see you do the same crap. And then they obviously didn't do anything, and they did not make the play-in. I don't even know what seed they would have finished in. But That's just bad considering the year prior they were the 2nd seed. Then the next year is the year they draft Scotty Barnes, sign and trade Kyle Lowry. They were very good last year. And they faced the 76ers in the first round and should have got done up. They were down 3-0 or 0-3, and then they ended up slowly coming back. Game 6, obviously the Sixers won, but I think the moral of the story and the thing that people remember from that series is Joel Embiid got hurt in the series, and it's just kind of like the Raptors beat the crap out of them even though they didn't win. So now this year, the team with another year under the belt after having a good playoff run the year prior, you expect something out of them. Fred VanVleet is in a expiring contract year. This is when players blow up and have a great year, and he just kind of had the same type of year, nothing that crazy. Scotty Barnes, off a winning Rookie of the Year, you expected a big jump, kind of stayed the same. Pascal Siakam, I'll give him credit, had a great year. OG Anunoby started the year off as the greatest defensive player of all time, and then obviously they just slowly stopped playing him because they thought he was going to get traded. And then obviously he didn't get traded. And then Gary Trent Jr., you just kind of didn't hear much from him this year. Just, at least me. So, it's Toronto. We know Toronto's history of struggling to keep players happy just because it's Toronto. It's not in America. And people like to be home. Which, to be fair, if you're there for a long time, like Fred and Pascal and OG have been, you probably have some kind of attachment towards the city. But at the end of the day, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, it's not going to work. This same thing's being said about another team. That'll be the next team I'll talk about. But moral of the story, I want to see Toronto retool. And by that, I mainly am saying get rid of OG and get rid of Fred. Pascal Siakam, I think, is y'all's franchise guy. He's been there the longest. I think him and Fred have been there the same amount of years. Fred might have been a year after him. I'm pretty sure they're the same exact years. But it's just like, you got players that have value, that can help you out towards a future run. And again, at the deadline, y'all made an underrated move in getting Jakob Poeltl, bringing him back home, because obviously you had him at one point. But you didn't really break the barrier. Now, I will say this. It's kind of a backhanded compliment, but it's a compliment nonetheless. I expect them to make the playoffs. I think, I'm gonna be nice. I think they are going to make the playoffs and face the Bucks as the 8th seed. And I think the same thing that happened last year is going to happen. Where the Bucks are going to look dominant, and the Raptors are going to get a game, and everybody's going to be like, okay. And then they're going to get another game. It's going to be like, oh, crap. They're going to do it. And this time it's going to be more respectful because they're going against the Bucks. You're not going against 76. You're going against an actual team that's won a championship and has a lot of championship experience on their side. And so I don't like that because, again, it's going to be like, oh, crap. We know what we can do with these people. We can win playoff games. But it's just like, it's not going to work. So, moral of the story, I want to see Toronto retool. Keep Pascal, keep Scotty, sign and trade Fred, trade OG to Memphis for cheap, and then just move. I'm not going to say move on because that's kind of an a-hole thing to say, but it's just like, we've kind of seen the same team and y'all haven't really done anything. And y'all are kind of clinging on to your championship where, if you look at the championship team, only 2 guys are there. Because I'm not counting OG. He didn't play because he was hurt. And Fred came off the bench and he's had a great career and, pop off since then. And I want to see if he can perform well on another team. I imagine he can. And so, like I said, and keep Pascal. That way, you have that one guy that was loyal to you for a long time and you kept him. Because you had that with 2 guys in Kyle and DeMar. They're no longer there. At least keep that one guy that can keep your city happy. So, and number 3, the team I kept alluding to they had a big playoff run, and they kept clinging on to it, and it's kind of cost them, is the Atlanta Hawks. Their hats right there. The worst thing that happened to them was making the conference finals. Now, the thing I will say about the Atlanta Hawks is, so when I have all these my main points I'm trying to make. So for Minnesota, I want to see them run the team back. For Toronto, I want to see them retool. For Atlanta, I want them to answer the Trae Young question. I said the same thing about Ben Simmons in the first volume of this. But it's just like, all year we've heard nothing but negative things about Trae Young, and he had a down year. I'm not going to say it's the worst year of his career, because obviously you can count rookie year, but it's just like, the Atlanta Hawks, made a big move in the offseason, and they had their guys. Like, at least Minnesota had the excuse of Cat was out a good majority of the year. This year, for the Hawks, they had their guys, and they stayed the same. And again, another thing I forgot to mention with Minnesota, they stayed the same. They're in the play-in still after making a big move. Atlanta, they're in the play-in still after a big move. Now, it is a bit crazy. They're playing the team that they played in the first freaking round of the playoffs, but that's a topic for another video. Anyways, back to Atlanta. The year after making the conference finals and re-signing John Collins, they ended up in the play-in. Now, you're in the same, again, you're just in the same situation. And with Trae Young, rumors, we've heard nothing but bad things. And just like, at some point, he's going to get disgruntled and ask for a trade. And I hate that this is kind of the NBA that we're in. Like, I love seeing trades, but I hate that it's just because players feel like they're disrespected by organizations and they're just like, they are ready to move on. Now, I guess I understand where players come from. It's just like, why can't I feel this way and the organization can? I think it should be mutual or on even grounds, which most of the time, more recently, it's been the players have been frustrated with the teams and they want out. And again, this is all rumors. We don't know how Trae Young feels. We can only think how he feels. And you can only see how he feels and how he acts. And this is just my opinion on Trae Young. I like Trae Young, but he kind of is an a-hole. And he's trying to portray this role as the villain. He won't come out and say, yeah, I'm the villain. But we saw the playoffs when it gets not only the Knicks, but the 76ers, to the most toxic fan bases. He was relishing in celebrating and doing them up, and just they had a lot of bad chants toward him. They had a lot of bad feelings towards him. He's like, that's fine. I'm going to do y'all up. And then obviously the Bucks kind of not as toxic as the other two fan bases, and he didn't get to relish in the glory of doing the Bucks up because the Bucks ended up doing them up. So, again, I keep saying this. They made the conference finals, and then the next year they're in the play-in. That's not good. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. And then the year after, they made a move. Or that offseason, they made a big move. Got DeJounte Murray, which again, I think it kind of feels like I'm putting a lot of blame for the Hawks season on Trae Young, but when you're the star guy, you get the finger pointed at you a lot. And when you hear nothing but bad things being said about you, it kind of does not help your case. So I want the Atlanta Hawks to answer the Trae Young question. How do we build around him? How do we keep him happy? How do we bring back a winning culture, or at least a top 6 culture? Because, again, we just made a big move in the offseason. Why are we struggling to make the playoffs? Why are we struggling all year? Again, I don't know. There's the obvious suggestion of trading for Jaylen Brown, which I mentioned in Shooting the Breeze episode 2, because that was when the Jaylen Brown trade rumors came out. And Atlanta's interested. Atlanta's interested in Jaylen Brown. But it's just like, you can't make big moves every offseason, because then you can't build chemistry. You can't build consistency. Also, he's an expiring, but who knows? Who knows what they're really going to do? But it's just like, I think they need to answer the Trae Young question. Is he happy here? How can we build around him? Also, I know I was just talking bad. Like, I don't like seeing players ask for trades, but John Collins has constantly been in trade rumors ever since he got extended. And I was in the camp of saying, hey, extend him. Because he did just help me get to the conference finals. You should extend him. But that's besides the point. I don't know. Atlanta just had a very down year. And again, they can still make the playoffs. I really doubt it. Because again, I think the Heat's probably going to beat them. And then obviously I just said the Raptors are going to make the playoffs. So who knows? Maybe I'm the idiot and I'm wrong. We'll see come Wednesday. But more of the story, this point, I want to see the Atlanta Hawks answer the Trae Young question. Or at least change something up with the team. Because, like I said about the Raptors, you keep putting the same team out there expecting a big blow up or a big difference. And for the past 2 years, it was the same thing. Number 2, a team I want to give my flowers to. It's going to kind of sound like I'm giving a backhanded compliment with the headline point, but I'm not. The Oklahoma City Thunder were a way better team this year than anybody expected, and this is after they didn't have a starting center a good majority of the year, and they didn't have a proper center a majority of the year, and their number 2 overall pick in Chet Holmgren missed all of the year, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander put this team on his back and went on a different level, and now they're in the play-in, which a lot of people did not expect that from them. So I'm going to give them their flowers. They had Jalen Williams, who a lot of people probably didn't know going into the year. I certainly was not familiar with him, and now he's going to finish in the top 3 in Rookie of the Year, so that's good for him. Josh Giddey, who, again, going into the draft, I was like, wow, Josh Giddey went to the Thunder, and that high, I thought he was going to go a little bit lower, but he didn't, and he had a good year this year. So the Thunder, the moral of the story with the Thunder is, we all know they have a boatload of draft picks. I want to see these draft picks used on something else. Obviously, they've had a lot of hits, few misses, not that many. You're bound to miss on some of your draft picks, but they've had a lot of hits with their draft picks. But I probably should have looked over the exact number that they had. We all know they got like 20-ish. That might be. I think it's 17. It's like 16 or 17 future first-round picks. I want to see them use their first-round picks for something else because I want to see them make that big jump. That's more of the story. And I don't think they're going to make that big jump with drafting first-round players and just players. Use the picks to trade for somebody. Again, I don't know if anybody off the top of my head. I have a name that might be available. I really doubt it. That's going to be the headline point of this. But just more of the story. I want to give the Thunder my flowers. I want to give Thunder my flowers. Yeah, that's the saying. And I just wanted to give them a shout out. I'm just like, I would like to see you do something different than drafting first-round picks. Trade your first-round picks and get a stud star guy that can help Shea, Giddey, and Chet out. Which, to be fair, what I expect to see from them this offseason is to continue drafting with their first-round picks because they don't know if their team over-delivered this year, and now they got Chet Holmgren coming in, and I think they're going to be better next year. I think they're going to be 6 to 10 in that territory next year if they just only keep Chet, or if they just bring in Chet and then draft somebody. So I also expect, if I was a GM, I'm not a GM though, and I had a boatload of picks, I'm at least keeping one a year, and then I'm probably trading the rest of them to get somebody that I know of. Actual NBA guy. And I'm not dissing college guys, but it's just like, that's how I'd be a GM. But obviously, I'm not a GM, so it is beside the point. But it's just like, I don't know of a superstar or star guy that you, there's obviously a lot that you can go after because you got a bunch of first round picks. A lot of teams like having first round picks. But the one that would fit them perfectly, I don't know money-wise if they can do it, but it's just like, if this guy was available, I want to see you trade a bunch of your first-round picks to get him. And this is the last point of this video. The last thing I want to see in the offseason, and I'm kind of including the Thunder in this, but they're not really that involved. But I want to see the New Orleans Pelicans answer the Zion Williamson question. Now, obviously, the title of this video is going to have in regards to Zion Williamson, just because it is a very weird situation that we're in. Zion was supposed to be next up. He was supposed to be the next LeBron. Now, obviously, nobody's ever going to be the next LeBron. I hate like that we had to have this comparison. I actually hate that I just even mentioned that. But it's just like, he definitely is forgotten about. I've said it several times in this video, but I'm a Grizzlies fan. He's not that guy of his draft class. It's Ja Morant. And when Zion plays, key word there is when, he definitely is good. But is he at Ja's level? You can't really debate it because he's never freaking out there to say it. And just like when you look at the things that Ja have done, Ja, his rookie year, led his team to the play-in. Ja, his second year, led his team to the playoffs. Ja, his third year, led his team to the second seed. Ja, his fourth year, had a very crappy professional part, but still led him to the second seed again. And as a Grizzlies fan, we get compared to the Pelicans a lot. Now, I'll give the Pelicans a lot of credit. The Trey Murphy draft pick, we drafted Zaire. I like Zaire. He had a down year this year, mainly because of injuries. So I'm going to give the Pelicans a small bit of credit because they drafted Trey Murphy in that whole trade scenario. So that's besides the point. But it's just like, when you look at the Grizzlies and the Pelicans, they get compared a lot because they traded their franchise guys around the same timeline. Because the Grizzlies, obviously, different star levels, but the Grizzlies traded Mike Conley and Marc Gasol and didn't get that big of a package back for either. Where the Pelicans traded Anthony Davis and got a boatload of first-round picks, and Drew Holiday the next year and got another boatload of first-round picks. So, not only did the Pelicans get the first overall pick, Not only did they get a future most improved player in Brandon Ingram, they got a boatload of first-round picks. For the Grizzlies, they got one first-round pick for Mike Conley. I'm pretty sure they didn't get any for Marc Gasol. They got the second overall pick in John Morant. The next year, in the draft, they didn't even have a first-round pick. They had to trade in, got Desmond Bane. Shout out Desmond Bane. But it's just like, when you look at these teams and the comparisons, the Pelicans should have an upper hand on the Grizzlies, and at least should be on the Grizzlies' level. But they're not, and the main reason they're not is because of Zion. So, I know I said it a minute ago, but it's just like, I want the Pelicans to answer the Zion question. Why does Zion keep missing time? How can we keep from him missing time? Is it time to move on from him? I know it's hella overdramatic, and I really doubt this offseason we're going to see Zion get moved. If he does, Thunder, jump on that. That was kind of the suggestion and hint I was trying to give y'all a couple minutes ago. But it's just like, I want them to be on this level that they're supposed to be at. Because again, like I've said with every team in this video, besides the Thunder, they're at the same level as they were last year. You're supposed to make a big jump this year, and you were great this year when Zion was out there. But guess what? When it matters most, Zion wasn't out there. You fell off a cliff. Luckily, you have Brandon Ingram still, and he carried you to the play-in, and he could have won the game yesterday. But that game was still crazy, and so kind of is a bit forgotten. And I'll admit, they have used their picks. Like, I'm pretty sure they gave up one first-round pick to get C.J. McCollum. And again, I kind of give them credit for making a move. If they were a bit patient, they probably could have got a better player than C.J. McCollum, but that's just, again, another backhanded compliment I'm giving out. But it's just, more of the story, I want to see the Pelicans answer the Zion question. I know that's not really a move, but it's definitely something in the direction. If I was a Pelicans fan, I'd be frustrated. We were promised something that has not delivered yet. It's been a false promise. It's just a little bit of a tease. It's just like you're going to see a Marvel movie and you're expecting Thanos. I'm only saying Thanos because I see the Thanos Funko Pop, but it's just like you're going to see Avengers and Thanos. You're expecting Thanos to come out, and I was like, no, we get Ultron. And it's like, oh my God, Thanos is at the end of this movie. We got to wait a whole 2 to 3 years to see Thanos again. And even then, we don't know what the hell that's going to look like. I know this is a terrible comparison, but you get the point. You expect to see something in Zion, but it's just for some reason, he's never out there. Now, this is just me being unrealistic. I would like to see a Zion trade just because I don't know what the hell the trade package looks like. And again, I've said this in the Damian Lillard video. I've probably said it in a couple other videos. Every team has their star. A couple of teams are fortunate enough to have a good question like, who do we choose? Who's the guy? The Pelicans, it's obviously been Zion, but Brandon Ingram has always gave it a great case for it to be like, I don't know, is it Brandon Ingram? And at some point, like I said, Brandon Ingram's been popping off for the last month. This offseason, again, this is kind of like a little side point, but it's the same moral of the story. I want them to think, is Brandon Ingram the guy we build around? Is Zion second fiddle? I know that's kind of a harsh thing to say, but it's just like at some point, something has to be done. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's the definition of insanity. So, more of the story, I want to see the Pelicans do something about Zion. We keep hearing and saying the same thing over and over again, but at some point, you got to put your foot down. And again, I know you can't prevent injuries, but we've had this same conversation for the past 4 seasons. You could be doing something a bit differently. That's just me. So, recap. Timberwolves. Run the team back. Try it again. It doesn't really matter to me if you do it or not, but it's just like, you're not going to be able to duplicate what you got back for Rudy Gobert, so you might as well try it again with a bit of hope of health and safety. And worst case scenario, I don't know. Raptors, retool. Again, you've done the same thing for the past 2 years, and so far, you've not made that big of a jump. Maybe you prove me wrong and make it out of the first round of the playoffs. I doubt that, but maybe you prove me wrong. But it's just kind of like, I want to see some of their players in a different place and see if they can thrive and play better there, and see if, with that being said, other players come to Toronto and thrive. For the Hawks, answer the Trae Young question. We think he's an asshole. Is he an asshole? If he's an asshole, could you stop him from being an asshole? And just kind of like, again, same thing what I'm saying with the Raptors. You're throwing the same thing out there and over again, and so far it hasn't worked. And again, prove me wrong. You could prove me wrong. And if you prove me wrong, just do it again. So it doesn't really matter. The Thunder, keep doing you, but I personally would like to see you make a big move. It doesn't have to be the biggest move, but some type of move that would be like, oh my God, that is crazy. And then with the Pelicans, do something about Zion. Because with these past, all the other teams I'm saying, this has been like, they've had these problems for like 2 years. You've had this problem for like 4 years now. So see if you can do something about Zion. And if you can't, you need to have a backup plan in place. So these are things that I would like to see happen in the offseason. I would imagine a good majority of these don't happen. Not the end of the world. But if they do, I'll look like the smart one. So the NBA regular season just ended yesterday. The play-in, who am I getting a tweet from? This is very funny. Shams tweeting about the Kyle Anderson, Rudy Gobert situation. So, what was I saying before I got interrupted? Regular season just ended. You're looking at your 3-time fantasy basketball champion. It's kind of just a humble brag, but this year was my worst year in fantasy. My top 5 drafted picks: Joel Embiid, Devin Booker, Anthony Davis, Brandon Ingram, and Jamal Murray, Bradley Beal. I forgot if I drafted Beal before Murray or not. But long story short, the first 5 guys I had missed at least a month of action. Embiid was like almost a month, but the other 4 definitely missed a month. So I had a down year. I lost 8 times. Every Monday, because that was like when the game would end, I'd send trade packages to teams. They would not respond. At least counteroffer me. And I'm like, say, hey, guy, will you please counteroffer me? And they wouldn't. And I'm like, fine. I'm going to remember this. So I'm like, let me get to the playoffs. Because I get to the playoffs, I'm going to make sure I win. And the guy I beat in the finals had 1 loss. And he was doing his damnedest to beat me. He was making changes every day. To be fair, I was doing the same thing. But at least the guys that I was like dropping were at least out of the rotation. He was just adding guys to like boost up his roster and to have advantage. It's smart, but it didn't work because I won. So again, it's a bit of a humble brag. I need to order my trophy. I still didn't order my trophy for last year, but like I said, 3-time fantasy basketball champion. Happy about that. The play-in starts tomorrow. Like I said, I'm not going to make a video about it because I'm not going to say anything that crazy. It just kind of be a boring video, and I'll go over my thoughts of the play-in and my actual playoff predictions and preview video during the weekend. But that being said, my next video is going to be a controversial one because it's going to be my NBA awards for this regular season. And again, I just said the same thing like about the plan. A lot of what my awards are going to be, it's going to be what the consensus is, but it's just kind of like, it makes the most sense like if it's the same. I like to be different, but it's just like, I'm not going to be completely different and just be stupid just to get attention. So my awards video should be Wednesday. ROH TV review should be Thursday, maybe Friday. Playoff preview Saturday. And then Monday or Tuesday next week, Shooting the Breeze, episode 4, where I'll talk about the first couple of games of the playoffs. I know people talk about Christmas Day as the best day of the NBA year. I think that's a lie. I think Saturday and Sunday of the playoffs are the best day. Especially this year, where we're seeing Sacramento, who's not been in the playoffs in 16 years. We're going to see them, a playoff game in Sacramento. It's going to be lit. It's going to be a great environment. Also, people don't sit out on playoff games. Or Christmas games, some did. And obviously, some people might be hurt in this occasion. But it's just like, looking at these playoff matchups, we have Cavs and Knicks, which hopefully Julius Randle is back, and that's a more interesting matchup. But I think Donovan Mitchell is going to have a vengeance against the Knicks for not trading for him. Western Conference is hella unpredictable. Suns, Clippers, it all relies on Paul George. I think Kawhi Leonard definitely is good enough to have the Clippers competing against the Suns, and obviously the Suns are undefeated with Kevin Durant. I hate hearing that bull crap because they played against bum teams, but that's besides the point. I don't want to say bum teams. Down teams. And then what's the other? The Kings, Warriors. I'm rooting for the Kings. I am hella rooting for the Kings. I'm going on and on. I just kind of want to get this little bit of a tangent out of the way. So, thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Watch the other videos I suggested in this, and I will see you in the next one.